Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support over the years. It is greatly appreciated. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We are making our way through the player cards in the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion. This is part 4 of our look at the secret cards in the box. We are going to start off with Transmogrify. It is a 1-cost event with a willpower and intellect skill icon, gambit, and science trait. Evade, you may use intellect instead of agility for this evasion attempt. If you succeed and the enemy is non-elite, attach Transmogrify to it. Attached enemy gains massive, cannot move. As a reaction, after you evade this enemy, discover 1 clue at its location, limit once per round. Thoughts on Transmogrify?
I do have a question of clarification before we get started. When you play the Transmogrify, you evade the thing.
Yes, you immediately get a clue. Was that your question?
Oh my god.
No. This card is fair balanced. Legitimately, this card is. I actually really like this card, and I think this is the kind of secret enemy management I would like to see more of. I am unironically going to advocate that this card is actually fine and actually fair and reasonably balanced. And the reason why I'm saying that is compare it to level 0 breach or breaking and entering, which is a rogue card. It lets you investigate using intellect plus agility, so it is it's guaranteed to be a higher skill value. Which also lets you discover clue because it's an investigation. It doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity, and if you succeed by 2 or more, you also automatically evade an enemy. That is a better effect than evade and get a clue, because of the way that you don't have to be engaged.
But this is in the wrong class. That's the problem.
No, because Seeker does get to deal with enemies temporarily, and this is actually making the enemy not a problem right now, but a much bigger problem, pun intended, for next round. And I think so. One of the things that I think the argument that we chatted a little bit before we got live, you were thinking that this is like a permanent enemy solution. It's not. Making the enemy cannot move is only a functional defeating an enemy in very small amount situations. And you're looking at me very skeptically. I've played with this card a bunch. I know what I'm talking about.
Don't hunter though.
Yeah, no, it doesn't hunt. But if you ever need to be in that location, you are now guaranteed to have to deal with it because it's massive. It is not like you're not getting away from it. It's also potentially a problem for your teammates now. And getting a single clue for an evade, I don't think it's that busted. Like I think the fact that you have to use intellect or agility means that you're not actually getting a very big boost on this test, which is I think one of the balancing factors. You actually probably have to put in a little bit more effort in order to pass this test. It also, hilariously, I've used this card on elites. Like sometimes it's just a panic button. I need to evade right now. It's absolutely not a clue farming card, right? It is not a good way for you to like continually get clues. It's just a get rid of an enemy, try to get out of there. Yes, it's very good against some hunter enemies, but I think that the game design is just at the point where like enemies that cannot move are not like, that's not an auto kill. Like if there's ever a doom enemy, this is not your answer, right? If there's ever an enemy that like has a static effect, this is not your answer. So like I think I get your immediate like fear when Seeker gets yet another enemy piece. This is not as bad as a lot of those other ones, right? Or rather, this is not as like warping. It's actually just like a perfectly reasonable card.
I think the comparison to make here is not to breaking and entering, but to bolas from Scarlet Keys. Yeah, because bolas is you use your stat instead of agility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it works on non-elites and you attach it. And bolas is attached enemy gets -1 evade value, and then after attached enemy moves exhausted. So this one is like bolas, but you also get clue.
I get that, but I feel like they're not exactly. For one, you're not exactly selling me. If this card is slightly better bolas, then that I don't think is necessarily like a great.
It's yet another thing where it's another lunch that Seeker seals.
No.
Plus, this is also in the class that has like shortcut, so it's like moving away from a massive enemy is like easy.
That is true. You have a point there.
Yeah, and plus just take an AO and move away from the thing, and then you never have to worry about the big massive hunter ever again, because because you transmogrified it as a Seeker,
No, I think if you actually play this card, I think you will find that it is not like it will be less useful than you think. The number of targets where this is like the perfect counter is actually pretty low.
Yeah, I don't know. Secret enemy management is getting like really out of control. Like I don't know.
Okay.
It's just yet another tool.
No, my counterpoint to that is no. Seeker was already so far out of control that this isn't a blip on the radar, right? Like you're laughing, but like straight up, if I want to deal with enemies in Seeker, then this is not the card I go to because this card is too weak. And that is, I think, kind of the point I'm trying to make is if you want to play Seeker and you don't want to feel like you're eating Guardian's Lens, this is actually a good card to put in your deck because you're not actually eating the Guardian's Lens. You're going, help, there's an enemy. I'll just spend this action I would have spent investigating otherwise to get a clue anyway. And then next turn, hey, Mr. Guardian, please help us with the big massive enemy. So it's actually like I like it from that point of view as well. Like I
just wish it didn't have the clue getting.
In that case, I wish it didn't have the kennel move. No, this card needs to have the clue getting to be interesting. This card isn't interesting if you can't get clues with it. That's the whole fun of it. The reason to play the card.
Guardian gets bolas, like. So why can't Seeker get something that does a similar thing?
If we're just going to bring up bad Guardian cards to compare to the current cards, then we are going to have a very, very long video comparing a lot of bad Guardian cards.
Keep in mind, that's Seeker for you. This is Seeker.
I think you are I feel like it's an unfair comparison because you are picking not just a Guardian card in doing a thing that they're not supposed to be good at, but you're actually picking a bad Guardian card in the thing they're not supposed to be good at. Like, let's be honest, nobody play bolas. People will play Transmogrify, but it's not that Seeker gets the more powerful bolas. No, bolas is just bad, and Transmogrify is at least playable. I don't know. We're starting off feisty today.
I know. Let's just get it out of the way. I'm calling it a curse. I'm sticking to my principles. It's a curse.
Fair enough. We haven't heard from Cameron yet. Cameron.
I was thinking about this one in comparison to some of the more traditional enemy management tools that I've been using in Seeker in solo, and I play things like I've got a plan or Occult Invocation if I just want to nuke something or tend to evade it. I think about the torment that Night Gaunts cause and being able to hit a Night Gaunt with this, and basically as long as the map plays ball, you hit it with Transmogrify, it can't move. You've basically nullified it for the rest of the game. But
that is a big ask though. The map does not usually.
Well, that's what I mean. Like a lot of maps force you to sort of crisscross and stuff like that, and so if you have a massive Night Gaunt sitting in the middle of the board that you're going to have to deal with a couple times, I would almost rather it be off the table. And in solo, I often want things off the table rather than, evasion is fantastic in solo, don't get me wrong, but there are just enemies that you just need to get rid of, and this doesn't solve, the Wizard of the Order problem and other enemies like that. And so I don't have as much of a problem with this as I think Matt does. I was thinking about would I consider playing this, instead of something like I've Got a Plan or Occult Invocation, and I might be willing to include a copy of it, maybe two depending on the scenario, but I don't think it's strong enough that I would feel comfortable anyway taking out the tools that just kill enemies dead and putting this in instead.
I think I had this card in Horror in High Gear, and it didn't feel like in that scenario it is just an instant kill because the road keeps moving. And it didn't feel particularly powerful in that scenario either. Although granted, that's maybe also the tempo in that scenario is really high, so you have to be real fast. One Investigator we haven't mentioned yet that I think absolutely loves this card is Trish. This is absolutely a Trish card because
easy peasy, yeah.
Easy way to get a clue on a location that also has a enemy on it, and yeah, I just if you're playing Trish, I think if I remember correctly, you're already eating very well because Alessandra also likes having enemies around. I think that Rogue in general have just been moving into a very have enemies around direction in the last couple of sets, and this card specifically is good in Trish, but yeah, you're eating well if you're a Trish main.
I've also seen Finn mentioned as a good target for this card.
So that's the thing. I feel like it's not bad, absolutely, but if you're Finn, I'm playing Finn right now, and I really like. I really like him. I think Finn is fantastic. I think.
Oh no, it's great. It's just that Finn ends up getting mentioned with any card that has the word evade on it. Just saying.
Fair enough. No, I think the reason why there's maybe a little bit of mention or hype around Finn is like this idea that like you can use your evade action to get more clues because you can keep evading the same enemy. And I'm like, that is the most Rube Goldberg-esque way to get one clue around. We already have lockpicks. We do not need this.
Plus Finn, you got like breaking entering and like that.
Yeah,
because then you get the succeed by 2. So like.
Yeah, my opinion is that it is not that powerful as an enemy management tool. It is a nice, like, on-tempo way to evade because you also get a clue. And I think that is where I would want Seeker enemy management to be more often because, you know, I don't like it when Seekers just get to break the color pie and just eat Guardian's lunches. And I think this card is not eating Guardian's lunches. If you disagree with me on that point, fair enough. I think we can both agree that, like, if you... the statement I'm making... I think we both agree with. We just don't know, or like you're not agreeing with me that it applies to this card. I think that's fair to say.
One thing I would like to mention is I'm already starting to sense some interesting combos where you like evade the things remotely.
I just told you we do not need to combo with this card. There's no point in comboing with like legitimately. If you're at a location and you have Seeker cards in your deck, just clear the location with your tools. Like it's
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I was debating whether to bring up like, do people even play Pendant of the Queen anymore because of how broken it is?
That's a fun card.
Yeah, it's like it's something you gotta ask with like.
The joke is you don't need to use Pendant of the Queen to evade an enemy remotely to get a clue. You can just get a clue with Pendant of the Queen. That's one of the modes on there. It's not the mode you usually use because you can already do that.
You trigger more things. You trigger things.
You're certainly triggering somebody. You're very true. Like, that's very correct. Yes, I am getting... Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Ratings?
0.
These types of effects just need to, like, go away. You know?
This card is fine. Play with... My challenge to you is to play this card more. I think if you play it a couple of times, I think you will find that it's
I don't play Seeker cards, so it's not happening.
Okay, fair enough. I'm saying 0. I think this card is perfectly reasonable to include, but it's not like a game changer.
I'm also going to go 0 on this one. I do like the design. I like the idea that, you know, it's not just another card like I've Got a Plan or Occult Invocation that basically I just kill the thing dead and move on. I like evading in solo. I mean, this doesn't solve all of your enemy problems, but it is an interesting tool, and I could even see, you know, playing it in solo and finding that it actually just doesn't do enough and end up dropping it down to another thing. But I am going to go 0 for now, and I'm looking forward to giving it a try. The next card we're going to talk about is Well Funded. It is a skill with 1 wild skill icon. It has the Fortune trait. While you control a science or tool asset, Well Funded gains a wild skill icon. While you control 3 or more science and or tool assets, Well Funded gains 2 wild skill icons.
I actually want to offer a little bit of a different way of looking at this card. If you're putting in this deck, just read it like it reads 2 wild icons. If you control 3 or more science and tool assets, it gains 3 icons instead. Because the people most likely to play this are Kate, who starts with a tool, and I actually think Daryl is the other one because his camera is a tool, and this is remember this is going to come up again later. I'm not the world's biggest fan of putting the literal card Unexpected Courage in my deck. I usually think that there's a better card that can fill a similar role, but I am weirdly a big fan of triple wild icon cards because it's very hard to fail skill tests with this. I put this in my Kate deck, and it was a very good kind of soft counter to her weakness, because usually in Kate you want to be beating your willpower test using your ability to put more clues on things, but doing that to try to beat your weakness is only making the problem worse, because it's a willpower 3 test that scales with the amount of clues on assets. I've had that be a willpower 6, willpower 7, willpower 10 test. That's not fun. And Well Funded is at least like 3 icons to try to kind of hedge against that and not take a billion horror. But otherwise, like, it's just more wild icons. It's not anything to write home about, but it's not like a bad card.
Unexpected Courage 3 and 4. I like these.
I mean 1 and 2, then you see it actually becomes 3 and 4. But yeah.
Yeah, I think cards like this are pretty much a no-brainer most of the time. You know, it's one wild skill icon. If you're playing any science or tool, you're probably getting 2, and then you're probably getting 3 at some point. And I'll take 3 wild skill icons in just about any deck if I can get them. So
this feels about right, like power wise. Like I like this. I wish there were like more of these. I think like as the card pool keeps getting bigger, like we're gonna see more and more of these. And they seem like filler, but at least they're flavorful.
Yeah, that would be my only complaint about it is, I mean, you could make sort of an infinite number of these types of cards where you just replace science or tool with some other trait, and bang, you've got another version of it.
In order to keep the card pool going, they're gonna have like that. This is what you got to do. You gotta go to stuff like this. Yeah, just like leverage those keywords, and look at traits. And
I am in a position where I usually do look at card pools a little bit in the sense of what if this is your first expansion, because I did also run campaign play along where you only played with a core set, Investigator start decks in one cycle, and then like a card like this is just a little bit more valuable. And again, and also from the perspective of like a new player, like if I get this card in my box, it's maybe not the most exciting card, but it is better than putting in a knife. Like you can go.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, plus some for relatively new players, like something like this is very good. It's like, okay, it's very easy for like a relatively new player to like look at this and say like, oh, I'm playing this in the Scientist. I should probably play science assets, and then it's like, okay, I'm a deck builder now. Like this is how you like introduce people to deck building.
When you get to the next level of deck building is that you realize you shouldn't be playing science assets, you should be playing tool assets, because there's a sense support.
Give it time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been ragging on that a lot, and we will. I think this video especially will rag on it a little bit more. That this box actually didn't do a lot for either the science or the tool trait. Like, this is, there's a couple of like support cards, but the actual like archetype that I think a lot of people were expecting when we saw Wilson and Kate just failed to materialize entirely. And I'm generally pretty positive about everything FFG puts out. Like, I try to be just a positive thing advocate for the game. I think they dropped the ball on this one. I think that, like, looking at the box, they maybe tried to do too many things with also having Blast and Curse in the same box, and they weren't able to hit all the marks that they wanted. Because I think like if you have a full collection, then this card like slots in pretty logically. But if you don't have a big collection and you're looking at Gate and this is your like science and tool payoff, I'm like, what's going on?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, and they've done this before with like Innsmouth, where it's like they split the box into, there's like 2 boxes in one,
Yeah, that one was maybe also just like them trying out the mechanic and being a little too cautious. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Well, what was my rating for Unexpected Courage?
Ratings?
Whatever it was, it's that.
I just putting a 0 on this. I don't.
Yeah, 0 seems fine. If you have a full card pool, 0 seems fine.
I think like I can't argue hard enough that this should be another thing, and like the thing is like it's a 0 in any investigator who is going to have a tool in play turn 1, which is going to be Daryl, Kate, and then anybody who plays 2 magnifying glasses probably also. It's fine. It's a 0.
You're going 0 too, Matt?
Yeah, I think so, because I don't know. Without thinking about it too hard, I would say like given that you have a full card pool, would I put this over Guts? That's what I really got to think about. Would I put this in over Guts? Probably not, because Guts draws. Would I put this in over Perception? Yes, I would. Yeah, it's a +1.
Wait, what? Sorry, run that back for me. You would put this in over Perception, but not over Guts?
Yeah, because Guts, like, the 2 willpower, like, really matters to get you over the line. Where often with Perception is, like, you go from, like, 5 to 7, and it's, like, you're just doing it for the card. But, like, this one is, like, this feels like... Yeah, I'd play this over Perception because of the 3 wild icon.
That's fascinating. I have the literal exact opposite mindset. Like, I have the same logic, but I arrive at the exact opposite conclusion. I would never play this over Perception because Perception is guaranteed to draw me a card, and I would 100% play this over Guts because in the situations where I want to beat a willpower treachery, this is more likely to, or this is possibly 3 icons instead of 2. So I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But this is why we are different people, Veronica.
Yeah, fair enough.
Different people.
I'm going to go +1 because it's potentially has 3 wild skill icons at level 0, which I like.
Oh yeah, true. It's level 0.
I like skill cards, so The more wild icons I can get, the better. The next card we're going to talk about is Steady-Handed. This is a 2-cost asset that costs 1 experience point, willpower, and intellect skill icons, talent, and science trait. Limit 1 per investigator. As a reaction, when you would succeed at a skill test, exhaust Steady-Handed. You either succeed by 1 more or 1 less. If you succeeded by exactly 2, heal 1 horror. So here's the card that totally breaks the katana.
I mean, you need to
No,
have Steady-Handed
in all seriousness, there are a bunch of cards in this box that want you to succeed by certain amounts. This can help you achieve that goal. I did play this in the Kate deck I was playing around with Chemistry Set. It got me clues a lot and did heal me a horror at least once, which might have actually helped me win the game. So I am a fan of this.
Uh-oh. I fought with Matt. Now I'm going to fight with you because I built a deck around this card, or I wanted to really play with this card, and to say that I'm not a fan might be an understatement. So you said that there's a bunch of cards in this box. You already named one of them, which is the katana. There are actually only 2 more cards in this entire box, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, the entire game that care about succeeding by an exact amount. Chemistry Set and Dr. Charles West. Which we both talked about earlier in a previous video. This works quite well with the Chemistry Set if your goal is to turn that into a sort of lucky cigarette case, because that effect is succeed by exactly 2, draw a card. You can also, if you're succeeding by 1, choose to succeed by 0, gain 2 resources, or if you're succeeding by 3, you can go to 4 and get an extra clue. With Dr. Charles West, you actually have to go to 1 or 3, which is a little awkward because that means you don't get the horror heal, but then you can do a ping of damage to an enemy location, and that's it. And I actually think that this is part of the problem that I have with this whole science package, is that there's actually no cards for it. There's so few targets for it, and the other really, really, really annoying thing that I've had with this card a billion times is that I already am succeeding by 2. And when you're already succeeding by 2, you can trigger this ability, but it doesn't do anything, and you won't heal horror. And I've made a bunch of plays thinking okay, I have Steady-Handed in my deck, I'm going to be healing horror gradually, and it just didn't do anything. I feel like the problem is that the other cards that this synergizes with aren't worth building around, and then this just isn't worth the cost of inclusion of 1 XP, 2 cost, and potentially playing 2 copies even though you can only play 1 per investigator. No, it was really underwhelming. I feel like this was supposed to be the big gate thing, right? You have your chemistry strat, you have this sitting next to it, you can trigger your succeed by exactly X effects, and it just felt really mediocre and boring, and I don't like that.
Oh, I've got the solution. What they should have done is they should have dropped the Ravenous Myconid and put in better cards instead.
I think you mean instead of better cards, you meant more interesting cards that synergize with this, because they are stronger cards than the Myconid, absolutely.
Or they could have had them. I could be at all in the mortal realms and had it be science traded and had it
it is science traded.
But really science.
I get
the succeed by X with the succeed by exactly X and all that stuff. Yeah.
I think I've built 2 different gate decks for 2 different campaigns where I actually, for one of them, I did In the Thick of It, which is a card I don't like, taking 2 mental trauma to pick up this card to be okay, I'm gonna heal my horror with this card, and then it just you do actually have to trigger this a bunch of times, and I'm not saying it didn't happen. Obviously, it did happen, but
so
it feels like you're jumping through hoops that you put up for yourself, and when you finally jump through the hoops, you're not actually getting all that much.
I totally get it. I'm seeing some different perspectives here, and I think I'm gonna contribute a third perspective. I look at this thing kind of like Knight of Sword, the very even if you're gonna be able to buy it anymore, the rogue tarot from Return to the Circle Undone, where it can make your skill test succeed by 1 more. I think of it like that, where it's all right, given you're doing things that you want to succeed by X, then maybe you play 1. That's what I'm thinking with Steady-Handed. It's not something you build around, but something you just sprinkle on top. 1 copy. That's what I'm thinking with Steady-Handed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that you are correct, but I would like this card to be more, because I think it's one of the big signposts for this cycle's attempt at doing things with Seeker.
Yeah.
I think that it just wasn't.
Yeah, it's just that's not Steady-Handed's fault. That's the rest of the cycle's fault.
That's not unfair though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also appreciate that you. I mean, we do have to make the comment that this is now also stealing Rogue's lunch, right? We are now succeeding by two.
Okay, so yeah, I think we had that argument a while back. Oh, we did when we did the hypothesis. Yeah, I had my rant when we did the hypothesis.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
So that one is out. Like that is out there.
To be fair, hypothesis steals every single lunch in existence and then lets you draw cards. That card is messed up.
Yeah. So like
that card, I remember seeing that card for the first time and then like actually sitting down and thinking about what it did and going, why did they print this? When they printed Lucky Cigarette Case, Rogue went from a class that didn't exist to a class that actually had like meaning and purpose, and they were looking at Seeker and like, let's print a better version of that for them. They really need this.
So given that you're gonna have a science trait, given that it's gonna be something where you succeed by exactly X, then a card like this kind of
it makes sense, but it's just like
it's just the package is not there.
Give me the rest of the package. Like, give me a little bit more. Like, if there had been an upgraded chemistry set, I think that's the card that I'm like missing. Is where's the upgraded chemistry set that like does more when you succeed by exactly 2?
Yeah. I mean, they could have just thrown out Transmogrify and put in something that was like, put in something that would work, but they didn't. But nope, we got. What did we get? We got other things that don't work with.
They should have thrown the book at them first,
Yeah, that should have been. Well, yeah, we talked about that last video at length because that card is fun.
Let's keep it going. I actually have no more things to say about Steady-Handed. I'm done.
It's part of the package. It's just the package isn't very big. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Veronica. I think it's like they really sort of dropped the ball when it came to the whole succeeding by exactly X thing. If there were more cards that paid this card off, then this card would look a lot better. When one of the 3 cards available is Katana, which I think is a trap if you're trying to make some sort of Katana deck with this to trigger it. I just feel like you're wasting your time. But, I think we're going to get more cards down the road that will feature this. Like an upgraded chemistry set would obviously be one of those. But even if we just had more cards with text on it, like chemistry set, that succeeded by X and encouraged you to say, hey, I want to do this more consistently. So spending 1 XP for a copy or 2 of Steady-Handed is useful. Whereas right now, the only deck I can see this really going in at the moment is chemistry set. And if you want to play around with the Katana and try to, do massive damage, sure, but
that's like building like a whole structure on top of like a paper cup. When you're trying to, I'm building a Katana deck.
Well, see, I wouldn't have as much trouble with it if they had put it like an upgraded Katana, like to give you some sort of path for a campaign where it's just like, okay, I start with a Katana, I pick up Steady-Handed, and then I get an upgraded Katana, and then things start to coalesce around an idea. But as it stands, it's just like I wouldn't want to hit scenario 6 or 8 in a campaign and be like, have the Katana and this as my enemy management solution.
Although the image of Zoe with like who can't play Steady-Handed, but the image of like Zoe doing the Kill Bill thing. Oh, I wish FFG gave that to us. Yeah, I'll say as a quick side note, I wish the Katana was the researched asset.
I believe you have made this side note every time we have talked about the Katana.
Yes, and I'll keep doing it because that is a prime opportunity that they just blew out.
You are not wrong.
Ratings.
Do you have a grade for it?
Okay. Bless. Given that you're playing the science thing, given that you want to succeed by exactly X, you put a copy in here. It's a bless.
Elder thing. Like Cameron said that like if they release more cards, or like you're assuming they're going to release more cards. I think that is a bit of an assumption. Like I don't think you're wrong that it might eventually happen, but I also don't think that I'm banking my beliefs on this card on the fact that the next set will have a bunch of tools, because Or science
Yeah,
cards
so-
that's because that's what I thought about Kaimani having tool access. Like, oh, they're releasing an investigator cycle with 2 investigators that care about tools. Obviously, this is going to be the cycle that features a bunch of tools for Kaimani as well. That didn't quite work out the way that I envisioned that. So yeah, it's like, again, like I agree with everything the both of you have said, but I just think like I don't know, I was envisioning something very different when I saw some of these cards for the first time, and
yeah, no,
I'm a little
this
let
is fair.
down.
I think. Yeah, I know this is fair. It's like it sounds like what you're doing is you're rating it with like how it is, and I'm rating it based on like, okay, let's.
What it could be.
Yeah, well, let's. That's the way my logic is. Given that you have chosen to play this archetype, it's a plus.
I did, and if I'm rating it how I feel rather than how I think it's objectively, I would rate this at least 1 autofill, possibly multiple in a row. Somehow, I mean that's maybe a little hyperbole, but yes, I put this in multiple decks. I have actually played the card, and it just feels like it doesn't feel as much fun. I feel like even if I didn't, it's not even just about the XP and the resources. It's literally about the slots in the deck that you're trying to put towards supporting this archetype. That actually doesn't make the game more interesting. It actually makes the game less interesting. Or at least it didn't feel like that way. Maybe that's just like me not vibing with the archetype. That's entirely possible. I also think I don't think we've made this joke yet, so I will or joke this comment yet. It's pretty interesting to put a succeed by exactly 2 archetype in the same cycle that you put bless and curse, because that's a wild ride sometimes. Let me tell you.
Oh,
that didn't help. So maybe that's also part of why I dislike this card. But yeah, I'm staying at Elder Thing. I think the problem is it's a niche. It's like a support card for an archetype that isn't quite there yet. And if you want to play it, like, knock yourself out. You're playing Seeker. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I'm all about positivity in this set, so I'm going to give this card the benefit of the doubt and go Bless. I did play it in Kate. I even think I got in the thick of it so I could get this in at level 0.
Ooh.
And, I mean, it did its job. I was happy with it. I didn't regret putting it in my deck, so and I hope, cross our fingers, that we do get some other cards down the road that make this a little more appealing. I mean, the nice thing is that it's only 1 XP, so if they do release cards in other colors, then if you've got some Seeker access, you can probably grab this. So I think there's some potential there, and we'll see. Maybe once, I think with this set, their decision to revisit Bless and Curse sort of really twisted everything around. And so perhaps the next set, if there's, they'll have all those card slots back where they can maybe flesh out the succeed by exactly mechanic, which will probably screw one of the investigators in that box. But the next card we're going to talk about is Fine Tuning. It is a 2-cost event that costs 1 experience point. It has an intellect and agility skill icon, insight and upgrade trait. Attached to a tool or science asset you control, limit 1 per asset. As a reaction, after attached asset exhausts, exhaust Fine Tuning. Ready attached asset. Thoughts on Fine Tuning?
I noticed one because I previewed it. This was a really fun one.
Take us away, because
yeah,
I only have speculation. I want to hear an expert.
Let me see if I can find somebody else in that case. No, I would not consider myself an expert on this card, absolutely, but I had spent some time thinking about it because I did do a preview video about this. It was actually, kind of fun. I spent a lot of the preview season hyping up my preview card, singular. Gave a lot of hints about Ancestral Token, the Guardian card that we've already talked about. And then the day of my preview, I do a card of the day thread in the Discord, and I do the guessing game sometimes. And so they got to guess what the Ancestral Token did, only using the hints and like yes or no questions, like 20 questions, but for Arkham cards. And then after they guessed that card, I give it like a minute or 2 to like discuss the new card. And then I was like, okay, round 2, let's go. That was definitely a highlight of the year for me. But about the card itself, the challenging point for this card is that you need to find tool or science assets where the exhaustion is the primary point of limitation. Because the first card that I thought of when I saw this card is like, gee, fingerprint kit exhausting is like it's so slow, it's so sluggish, but you don't actually want to put this on a fingerprint kit that only has 3 charges because then it's going to run out. I did a Monterey Jack deck a while ago that had level 4 fingerprint kit. I don't remember, 4, right? And then put a bunch of extra charges on it with emergency cache and stuff like that. In that deck, I might have considered 1 copy of this, but for the most part, I'm looking at tools or science cards that don't use charges, so or uses or whatever. So you have or don't discard, because you also have ice pick, which is also hilarious with this card. Do not put this on your ice pick. That's a tool. But the first card that like was like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Lockpicks, right? Lockpicks level 1. Yeah. You're probably not gonna use up all the charges. This just lets you use it twice per turn. That's really good. Like it's not game breaking because you're still spending like XP. You're still spending 2 resources. You have to find the lockpicks first, otherwise it doesn't do anything. But yeah, this is like a reasonable card to do with lockpicks. The card that I'm personally really excited to try and haven't done yet is the Mariner's Compass. The Dark Horse.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
you have no money. You get multiple clues. Yeah. That's difficult because you have to stop boost some other way. But you know, I might pick up Min one of these days and do that, and it seems like it would be really good. Obviously, also chemistry set. We just talked about it a bunch, but like that card also exhausts. That does discard itself if you draw really poorly, but you know, try not to do that. But there is one more card that I think is absolutely busted with this. And it's not Empirical Hypothesis, although that one is also science, so be careful. But did you remember, I mentioned one card, it was a signature card, earlier in this video, that is a tool. Can you remember which card that was?
Oh, the Kodak. Yeah, because you have to exhaust that.
You have to exhaust that to put evidence on treacheries or enemies. And this... So the moment I didn't actually think about it, I believe it might not even be in the video. Somebody pointed that out, and I was just like, "Oh, well, that's stupid." Like I don't like it's stupid in the sense that like Daryl's already one of the strongest investigators, and this just doubles the speed that his signature gives him extra evidence. It doesn't necessarily like turbocharge him even more than cards like Empirical Hypothesis already did, but this is a lot of evidence generation, especially in multiplayer where you can, pick 2 very useful things to put it on.
Yeah, it actually kind of segues into my thoughts on this card. Is like I'm not a big fan of cards that break your 1 per turn limit, because the 1 per turn limit on cards is there for a reason. And when so I'm very wary of anything that readies, that readies assets. So because you're going to find something that is going to be very powerful, and then you're going to use it twice as much. And then it's going to be crazy. So the power level of this card is entirely dependent on what you put it on. Oh, by the way, guess what? You know what you can put it on? You'd never guess. There's another card that you can put this on.
Lab coat?
Steady-handed.
Oh, you can put it on steady-handed.
It is any asset, so you can fine-tune your fingers.
Let me just disconnect from the voice call. I'm sure the 2 of you can handle it from here on out, right? Without me? No. Actually, there is one more card that we did also talk about, which is Microscope. Which we didn't bring up in the whole science discussion. But unironically, like I think this with Microscope is actually kind of turning your Microscope into a Microscope level 4 for only 1 of the XP cost. Because the whole thing about that upgrade is that like it doesn't require you to exhaust to get all the evidence, so you can do it twice around.
And then at that point, like you're a seeker, so like the problem these types of cards usually run into is that you got to draw them in the right order. But you're a seeker. You've got all the card draw in the world.
It's like there's not a problem if you just pick all the cards. If you just pick your deck up, yeah.
Oh, which ones?
It's. I think. I entirely agree with you regarding like readying things is scary. I think in this case they've put enough safeguards on it to make it not entirely like a problem. I think 1 XP, 2 cost, takes an action to play, limit 1 per asset, and only a very select subset. It's like it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's.
Oh, I understand. It's just this is how you eventually break a card game, is cards like this.
Yeah, but we're like several years.
Oh, we're past that. I know we are way past that. But this is still like an example of like how you do it.
The scariest thing I can do with this is the Mariner's Compass, or Daryl. But like, I don't think in that case, I don't think it's fine tuning's fault. Then I don't know. Maybe they have balanced it properly. I think it's fine. I actually think it's like a little underwhelming secretly. I expected this card to do more. Like, I think that's like you're entirely correct about what the card probably could have done, but in reality, it actually turns out like most people just play it pretty fairly. Like if there's a super powerful tool or science that gets released in the next cycle, obviously like it could just be completely broken. But that's kind of the nature of the beast. Like I don't want to start a rules discussion on what is already we have videos to record. But how does this work with empirical hypothesis if you also have the upgrade that lets it ready it and then choose a different criteria? Because I'm pretty sure at that point you're just like, I don't know, just randomly pick what. At that point, just roll a die, and whatever criteria it lands on, that's the one that now counts. Because, like,
well, I played this with the chemistry set. It worked really well. Chemistry set isn't the most powerful tool or science asset. I'm sure they'll print one down the road that will turn this card into a monster. But how would we rate this one?
I'm gonna. Bless token is the one that's for combos and stuff, right?
Yes.
I'm just gonna go Bless. I think it's like it's impossible to evaluate this card outside the context of what is the thing you're actually planning to put it on. So I'm just gonna go Bless.
Okay, let's assume that if I assume the baseline is like you get to use a second fingerprint kit, I'm gonna say 0 with an asterisk, and the asterisk is being like I wish this card wasn't in the game, because I think readying assets is dangerous.
You can just give it a curse token. That is
okay. Fine. You know what? That'd be hilarious. We have a bless and a curse in the same. Like that. I don't think that's ever happened before, where we had a bless and a curse in the same review. I'm just gonna do it just for the lulz. Okay, I'm giving it a curse just so we can roll the bless and the curse into whatever Cameron's rating is gonna be.
All right. Well, I will. I don't know. Do I want to give this a bless? Yeah, I think so, just because...
Bless, curse, bless?
Yeah, it really depends on the asset you're going to put this on. You're just not putting this in your deck just for the hell of it. You have a target for this, and your target could be fair, or it could be unfair. And if you're targeting something that is unfair, then it's definitely going to be... it could definitely reach curse territory. But... chemistry set is not that asset, and that's the only card I've played this with. So maybe Daryl's Kodak is turns this into a curse. So we'll wait and see. That's going to do it for our look at this batch of Seeker cards in the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. Any final thoughts?
Seekers.
I am wisely keeping my mouth shut.